So welcome back to the session on practical cloud security assessment on the AWS cloud platform. So yesterday we have discussed about the phase one, where we have discussed about the fundamentals on how to start an assessment process. Like what is the well, first of all, we have discussed about the threats, vulnerabilities, and risk, and we have discussed some particular cloud specific threats, vulnerabilities, and risk challenges. And also we have discussed about what is the need of a cloud security assessment and what all kind of cloud security assessments we are basically having. And we have discussed about when we have to basically perform these things. Okay, and today what we do is that team, once we basically, as we have completed that, okay, and we have discussed about how to write a proper report for this, and we have discussed our scoping part, the objectives part, the methodology part, resources, and the timeline. Okay, and today we'll basically go through the phase of the second phase of this particular process called as a assessment. Okay, so team, when you say you're doing an assessment, okay, when you basically go to a cloud platform and you're saying that you're doing an assessment there, as I told you yesterday, the first thing which we need is that we need to make a proper checklist. If you're doing or if you're basically performing a manual assessment, okay, there are two things I just want to give you a clarity. First thing is that if you are basically performing something called as a manual assessment, that means that you want to perform this particular cloud security assessment in a manual way, like you will use a checklist. And I give you some examples of checklists we can use, including the CIS benchmarks, the NIST framework things, the AWS security best practices, and I give you multiple things on that. I hope you remember that. Like I have shared you this multiple, or I told you that we have to use these multiple things for that. You can use a CCM or CAIQ document. You can use the CIS benchmarks, NIST benchmarks. A lot of things are there. If you want, I can show you an example. Let's suppose that team, if you want to basically perform a cloud security assessment on AWS cloud platform, this is one good thing to start. And we basically, I showed you this yesterday, regarding, they will give you some key areas where we have to assess the secure, or we have to put a proper security baseline, like identity and access management and storage security, logging and monitoring, then networking, data security. This is basically what we are having. And one thing which you always has to keep in mind is that when you go to the cloud platform, when you take a checklist like this, don't use it as it is. Until unless that is completely able to meet your requirements, don't exactly blindly go for this. Instead of that, you make a customized one for your requirement, right? But let's suppose that obviously you may have a question. So Krish, what if I'm testing for PCI DSS compliance? Let's suppose that if you want to basically have a PCI DSS checklist, okay, you want to verify your cloud platform to see whether they are complying with the PCI DSS, or whether they are complying with the HIPAA or anything like this, okay, then most probably you will get the checklist on the internet. Like for example, if you want to perform the PCDSS compliance check on AWS, okay, let me show you. If you want to basically perform the PCDSS compliance checks on AWS, I will show you that particular document. It's available on the internet. You can use that document for as a baseline for that. Let me see if I have it with me. See this team, this is an example for a simple checklist we are having. Okay, so basically this document will help you to map the PCDSS controls to the AWS cloud platform of parameters and other options. Okay, that's it. This is available on the internet. You can just search for PCDSS checklist on AWS. You will be able to find this Excel sheet. The same thing is available for Azure and multiple other cloud platforms as well. Okay, so there can be a predefined checklist for that. But if you basically go for a customized or a generic security testing, you have to make your own checklist. And these are the documents which can help you for basically building that, like CIS benchmarks, NIST best practices document, AWS best practices document, CCM and CAIQ. Okay, now this is my AWS account. Okay, this is my AWS account. So what I'm going to do now is that team, I want to, like for example, let's suppose there is a auditor who is coming to our company, or there is an assessor in our company is there, and his name is John. Let's suppose that we have an assessor in our company, or this is the person who basically do the assessment. Okay, so John want to do an assessment of the AWS infra in our company. So what we do is that team, we first of all, we have to have a centralized user. As of now, I'm having only one account, and that's why I'm using IAM. Otherwise, you have to use the AWS Identity Center. Okay, as of now, I have only one user. That's why I'm using IAM. If you have multiple AWS accounts, please go for AWS IAM Identity Center, previously called as SSO. Now I have only one user. So what I will do, I'm going to the IAM, and what I will do is the team, I will create a user here. So I click on create user, and I'm going to create a user called as John here. Okay, and for John, I can provide the management console access, no problem. I will be able to give him the management console access, and I'll just, you know, generate a password for him. Just a minute. So I have generated a password for him. Done. And I'll just, so in the policy part, what we will do is that team, in the policy part, what we will do is that for auditors or for people who want to perform the assessment on this, either you can make a customized policy there, or there is a policy for auditing. Okay, there is a predefined policy which is by default there for auditing. You can use this as well. See, in my case, I am using this. Actually, this is basically a good thing. So I'm just opening this particular policy. You can see that this policy is giving read-only access to a lot of things. See, they are giving access to a lot of things only in a read-only permission. Okay, so this is a very good policy we can use by default. Okay, yes. So we can basically use this. Okay, so as of now, what I'm going to do is that team, I'm going to add this, and in some cases, okay, only in some cases, we will basically have one more policy we will add called as a view only access. See, these two things we will basically have. So as of now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to give only one policy called as a auditor. I click on next. See, this is the only policy I'm attaching to him, and this is the user profile which I'm giving to John. So what happens, team? John will be able to log into my account, and he will be able to see multiple things. He will be able to perform the assessment as the way we have it's supposed to. But like again, if your company has some more restrictions, it's always recommended to make sure that we make a customized policy there. Okay, it's quite easy. We have to make a customized policy there. That's it. Okay, so I hope that is clear to all of you. This is basically the first step. Okay, before we allow the person to do this, we have to make sure that we will give him a proper policy there. Okay, that's it. Fine. So when you say that you want to perform an assessment, okay, you're saying that you want to perform an assessment. As I told you before, first of all, we have to review the cloud security policies in the company, right? So as I showed you yesterday an example for a policy, like the same way, you have to basically have a proper cloud security policy in the company. Okay, so that policy is what we have to use, as a primary thing. We have to understand, okay, we have to understand what is going to happen or what is the current situation of the company. And if you want to basically do anything further, this current particular thing must be clearly done. Okay, that's it. So this is a very good example for a cloud security policy. Okay, this is a very good example you can basically see for a cloud security policy. See, so this is a cloud security policy, the department approved by a senior management approval, effective date. Just scroll down, you basically, who approved this policy actually. Then again, the purpose of the policy, scope of the policy, which all things this company has to comply with, and what is the basic policy. Like this, this is a simple policy template. If you want to have this template, I'll share this with, don't worry, I can just share this policy with you. It's a really good thing. Okay, so first what we do is the team, we will basically review these policies. Okay, what we will do is that we basically always try to first of all review the current status before you do an assessment. I strongly recommend this because in my whole experience, what I have done with till now, if you are not aware of what is the current company posture, whether they have some proper policies or proper protocols or strategies in the company, you will not be able to do things properly. So first thing is always make sure that team, you review all the current security strategies of the company, like what all AWS security policies they are using, what all protocols they are following there, what is a cloud policy they are having. Just review all these things. Now when you talk about the security, okay, when talking about cloud security, what I personally have seen is that it's not limited to this, but what I have personally seen is that team, these are the key areas where we are doing the assessment. If you talk about a generic security assessment, like if you're calling me, Krish, I want to perform or you can you perform a security assessment for our company, and this is basically what generically, what we perform, like the security for the identity and access management, network security, storage security, incident response, platform service security, then workload security like databases, then compute storage encryption, then logging and monitoring. Like this, we have a lot of things we'll basically search there. It's not limited to this. We have a lot of things. IAM is there, network security is there, storage security is there, DB security is there, incident response is there, logging and monitoring is there. A lot of things are there. This is some examples are there. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that we will review the security policies of these particular, or we will review the security of these aspects based on what baseline we are following. Let's assume that, okay, let's assume that I am following the CIS benchmarks. Okay, in the CIS benchmark, you can see that the first thing is what? The first thing is identity and access management. Then we have a storage service, simple storage service. Then we have a EC2. Like this, we have some predefined checklist here. So let's do one thing, team. Let's go to identity and access management. Okay, the first thing which they want us to verify is that, okay, but the first thing they want us to verify is that, okay, you have to basically review the thing. So in every AWS account, you have to make sure that the contact information is properly given. That means if you go to any AWS account, this is basically the first thing. You can click on the account option here. Okay, when you click on the account option here, what will happen, team? When you click on the account option here, you will be able to see the contact information. You will be able to the contact information. You will be able to see the uh, address. You'll be able to see the the contact numbers and everything. The problem is that, so obviously you may be thinking, Krish, why we have to do this? The reason why we have to perform this, because team, as I told you before, the attackers, when they enter your system or when they enter your cloud infrastructure, the first thing they will do is that they will basically change your recovery information. They will completely modify your recovery information. That is the reason why we must be careful with this thing. Okay, so once it is fine, nothing more, we are happy, no problem on that. But if it's not fine, that means if you see something suspicious, again you have to immediately notify that, or you have to immediately write down that in the incident response, or sorry, in the document you're preparing, assessment document you're preparing, and you have to inform the proper authorities there to trigger the incident response plan for that. Okay, that's it. So in that, let me give you one more example here. So how do I basically tell them this is basically wrong? Okay, when you're writing a report, how do you basically tell them that something is basically wrong happened? So what you will do is the team, you will clearly write down in the report that, okay, so when you will first of all, you will first of all write down something called as a, okay, identity and access management. Okay, and what you will do is that the checklist is something you are creating, but what I'm trying to say is that when you go for identity and access, you will write down that, okay, now as per the standard, we have to make sure that the contact information is properly maintained. However, we have seen that the contact information has been modified, and it's having some unexpected emails, or basically it's having some different emails or contact numbers than what was supposed to be there. Like this, you have to write a proper report. Okay, so that's a very important point. When you're writing a report, the first thing is that, team, in the report you clearly mention that, okay, for example, okay, modified or altered, in a simple words, altered, what we can say, uh, account recovery information. And if you want, you can also write down, after some time after this, you can also write down what is the remediation you have to do. Or basically, if you are a part of the company, you can basically perform that particular operation. If you're a third party, you will simply just identify the gaps. Then what is the next thing, team? Then the next thing is that we have something called as a contact information that we already discussed. Then we have something called as a security questions are there or not. Like this, you have to go through every controls like this. So see, there is no root user account access key exist. Okay, like this. Okay, team, is it possible for us to do all these checkings, or is it possible for us to do all these things manually? See, if I say once, okay, Chris, you'll say, Chris, yeah, fine, I'll do it. But if I'm telling you, okay, team, do this checkups every 1 month or 3 months, do this assessment automatically. You will say, Krish, it's if I, or in a schedule, you will say that, Krish, it's basically it is a lot of time consuming, and we have to have one person for doing this. Are you sure you want to do it manually? So that is the reason why, team, previously it was a hectic thing for me also, but now AWS is having a very beautiful tool for that. Trust me, this is one better tool for that. We have something called as a AWS Audit Manager. Okay, we have a tool called as a AWS audit. This tool is really a good thing. In fact, I will tell you what this tool is all about. When talking about the AWS Audit Manager, this tool is basically something which will help you to properly assess. Okay, first let me give you an explanation of this, then I will show you that. See, what we do is that this will help you to continuously audit your AWS usage to simplify your risk and compliance assessment. That means what? Now, I'm going for this assessment here. Okay, this tool will perform a set of assessments, either predefined assessments or custom-made assessments. See, this tool will charge you for only the usage. That means what? Like for example, when you go for this tool, if you don't use it, there is no charge. Per 1,000 audit manager assessments happening for the region, they're having $1.25. That's it. This is basically really good, really good, cheaper, very cheaper cost for this when you compare with the manual assessment actually. Always make sure that it will vary region. So if I go to Mumbai region, you can see that per 1,000 assessments they are performing for, means including all resources, it's $1.25. Okay. When you talk about AWS config, in AWS config is something where we can basically trigger an automation first thing. Okay, it's a compliance thing where we have to do the compliance check with some limited options available. That means that if I'm telling you for PCDS compliance on config, we can do that. See, for example, team, I just want to show something on this. There is a very similar service here called as AWS config. See, if I'm going to this, what happens the team? I can create roles here. See, I can create roles here. Okay, like if you want to have PCI, it's not there, but there is a lot of things are there customized here. That means, okay, you can check for certain compliance requirements in a customized manner. Okay, but the same time, here it will give you some predefined list of things as per a lot of compliance. This is basically more flexible when it comes to assessment of this whole cloud account. But if you want to ensure the compliance of certain particular resources, this is a good service. But if you want to do it for all together for the AWS account, this is the best one, Audit Manager. And this is basically more of a, it will give you a proper report also. Okay, that's it. Okay, before I go for this, what is the question? Okay, what about Azure? In Azure, basically what happens is that, okay, we have some tools like, we have like I was saying that when you basically, there is a tool called as AWS config. Okay, AWS config. This will help us for compliance checks. For example, now I can give you an instance of that. Let's suppose that there is a specific bucket. Okay, there is a specific Amazon S3 bucket. Okay, for this particular bucket, or maybe for the whole Amazon S3, if any bucket becomes public or anything becomes changed, or let's suppose if logging is disabled, this AWS config will immediately know that it's non-compliant and it can notify us. Okay, for specific activities like that, we can basically go for AWS config. But if you want to perform a complete assessment on your status of the account, not only for one bucket or one thing, but the whole account, I want to perform a complete assessment of my whole account based on certain standards or baselines, I have to go for Audit Manager. And but again, there we have to perform a lot of things manually. We have to configure a lot of things manually there initially, but here everything is pre-configured. And if you ask me, Krish, what is the alternative for Audit Manager in Azure, to be honest, there is no specific ones, but you can use something called as a Microsoft Defender. This is basically what we can use, but Defender is actually a little bit not that much effective as Audit Manager, but it's a really good tool for sure. Okay, in Azure we call us Defender. GCP I have to check because like I rarely work on GCP, so basically I'll check on GCP, but for Azure part it's basically Defender. Okay, that's it. So if I don't have a tool, okay, Krish, I don't have a tool on GCP or Azure. Okay, you're telling me that, Krish, in AWS this tool is basically really good. This tool is really good. It's able to do its job. But in Azure we have a Defender, but Defender is not that much flexible for me, or it's not giving me the exact way I'm expecting in Audit Manager. No problem. We can use third-party tools, which I will show you today. We can use third-party tools there. Okay, that's it. Now, team, very important thing for sure. I just want to, I'll definitely, I will show you how to perform the assessment here, but I just want to show you one particular point in between, because I can see that this point is going to be confusing for you. See, uh, like I showed you yesterday, I guess. If you this is a common term. If you basically go to PCI DSS, okay, just take an example of PCI DSS. Okay, I told you yesterday that for PCI DSS we have a 12 controls. Okay, we have a 12 controls here. See, we have a total of 12 controls here. And like the same way I asked you before, team, is it possible for us to do all these things by ourselves? As a cloud service consumer, can he do it all these things? Can the cloud service consumer perform all these things by himself when you go to this? The reason is because out of these things, certain activities can only be done by whom? Certain activities can only be done by the cloud service provider, like physical access to data. For this particular thing, also it's a responsibility. For this thing, he have also responsibility. Like this, let's suppose, I'm not exactly saying, or I'm just not confusing you, but let's suppose, okay, when you go to a cloud platform, okay, when you basically go to a cloud platform, out of these things, some 40% things of this particular thing can only be done by the cloud service provider, and only the rest 60% is what you can do. Assume, okay, 40% of these activities of for PCDSS compliance can only be done by the cloud service provider, and rest is only what you can do. Okay, now I'm going to AWS, and AWS says that they are PCDS compliant. Okay, you are a financial company who basically do online transactions and all. Okay, assume that you are a company who basically perform online transactions and also you have to comply with the PCDSs. And if your cloud service provider is PCDSs compliant, okay, if your cloud service provider is PCDSs compliant, does it mean that I can skip the compliance team? Does it mean I can skip the compliance part of it? Because they are compliant, right? They are compliant, so obviously their infra is compliant. But who is liable and legally responsible? Who is the data owner? Your company. So you must be compliant. But again, for that, this is the problem. 40% of this particular activity can only be performed by the provider. Then how can I become compliant? That is basically where, team, in the cloud platform, just for your information, I'm telling you, we have a concept called as a compliance inheritance. In every cloud platform, we have a concept called as a compliance inheritance. That means what? Like, let's take the same example I told you now. Okay, now we have a PCDSS compliance. We have to comply with the PCDSS. Okay, and the provider says that they're already PCDSS certified. The provider is already PCDSS compliant. Now, this is your company, this is another company, and this is another company. So in your company, okay, you have made everything in the things properly PCDS compliant. And when you apply for compliance, when you basically apply for compliance for PCDSs, those things which you cannot control or those things which you cannot configure, as the provider is already certified with PCDSs, you can skip that part. Okay, the benefit is that with the help of compliance inheritance, the CSPs, the cloud service providers infrastructure, is out of the scope of the customer's compliance audit. So what happens whenever the customer want to apply for compliance for a particular standard, and whatever you can configure or you can build can only be part of your scope. If the provider is already compliant, that means that part is already satisfied. Okay, this is basically what we call as compliance inheritance, also sometimes called as pass-through audit. Pass-through audit. Let's come back to our audit manager. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is the team, I'm going to perform something, I'm going to do something called as a create assessment. Okay, so what we are doing, do this, I'm saying that periodic assessment. I'm just giving a name called as a periodic assessment. This tool is really good. I'll show you what this tool will do. All you have to do is that they already have the compliance requirements preset for multiple frameworks. Okay, Krish, I want to comply with the PCI. All we have to do is that just search for PCDSS and you already got all the controls. See, as if you want to comply with the PCDSS, you have to totally comply with this much number of controls. See, you have to verify this much number of control. If you try to do this manually, what happens? It will be hectic. And as if you go to AWS Audit Manager, they will verify all these things by themselves. That's the best part. So I click on this thing. And all I have to do is just simply go and tell them how many accounts I want to perform. Like this was a doubt somebody asked me yesterday, Krish, what if I have multiple accounts? So all your accounts will show up here, all your company accounts will show up here like this. Just select which all accounts you want to perform the check. And once you select which all accounts you want to do the compliance audit, click on next, click on next, and just click on next. That's it. Fine. Okay, how does it work? Okay, I'll give an example. Now I'm telling you, okay, Subham, I'm telling you, let's suppose that you have to have all your S3 buckets private. You have to have all your encryption keys, or maybe all your instances having a closed security groups. Now what you do normally, you go to the particular service, you verify it manually, but this particular tool will do it for you automatically. That's it. This particular tool will do that automatically for you. They will verify the check without you doing it manually. That's the only thing. See, all your accounts will show up here. All your accounts will show up here, which is part of your organization. Okay. So I'm just clicking on next. Okay. And they are telling you that, okay, who is the audit owner? Audit owner means, this is very important concept, team. The person who is committing the audit is basically audit owner, we can say. So what I will do is, or maybe anyone who is performing this audit. So what I'm going to do is that, okay, I'm just saying that I have an audit owner here. Let's say, do I have an user? Just an example. Just a minute, team. I don't have, yeah, I have a user called as John. So I'm saying that John is the audit owner. That means John will be able to see this audit. I click on next, and all I have to do is that click on create assessment. See, when you create an assessment, AWS Audit Manager automatically starts collecting evidence from the selected AWS accounts and services, and you have to wait for up to 24 hours to basically see the evidences. Now, Krish, how many frameworks they will support? Very simple. You go to the framework library and you will see that what all frameworks they will support by default. See, the best part is that if you talk about CIS benchmarks, it's already there. See, the CIS benchmarks is already there. FedRAMP is there, GDPR compliance of your account is there. See, I'm not teaching here how to implement GDPR compliance. I'm just explaining how to verify the compliance. In some other time, we'll basically discuss about, yeah, that's the next thing, Shubham. In other time, we'll discuss about how to make an infra compliant. That's a different story. But this tool will help you to, as this is a very really good tool. But like I told you before, Krish, I want PCDS sorry, I want to have a CIS benchmarks verification. I want to verify my account using CIS benchmarks, but I don't want to use it completely. That means I want to take this customized. Is it possible for me to build a customized assessment? Yes. We can basically perform a customized assessment also. By creating a custom framework, we can create a customized assessment. All we have to do is that we have to create a customized framework, and from that customized framework, we will be able to create a very easy, customized assessment for our company. Okay, how where we will be how were we able to see other accounts? Yeah, if it's part of the AWS organization, you will be able to see that here itself. The dashboard, you will be able to see based on now which all accounts, which all issues, everything you'll be able to see here if you are having multiple accounts in your AWS organization. We will do it in audit account. Normally, if you have a control tower, we have an audit account separately, we will do that. Else we'll do it in the management account. Yes. So it's quite easy, team. All we have to do is that we have to do perform in two ways. Okay, the first thing is that we basically has to go to the framework library, and we have to basically select the default frameworks available, or we have to basically go for the custom frameworks and build one custom actually. Okay, that's it. Neha, yes, actually not, we are not covering in this session because that is something which we are doing as a AWS thing. That's a technical thing, right? That's more technical specific thing. But yes, it can be done for sure. It's quite easy. It can be done for sure. Like for example, if they are saying that there is no compliance for this thing, you go and rectify it. That's all. Okay, what is next? Okay, why do organizations go for third-party cloud audits if CSP? Okay, now see, now you're saying that you like this service, but there could be like the way the results are interpreted, the number of frameworks, certain security mechanisms. You may not be comfortable with this. This is not everyone's cup of coffee. Okay, so if you want to have a more customized and flexible option, if you want to add more controls to it, or if you want to have a better kind of a tool, if you want to get better visibility, like for multiple reasons, you go for it. See, why when you have an iPhone, okay, when you have why do you want to go for Android? Because some people want more capabilities, right? Or maybe less capabilities, or like that, whatever. Just give me an example. Okay, that's one thing. But again, this feature is basically quite interesting. You can make your custom framework also. Like what I will do, I'll create a custom framework. I'll just click on next. I can take it from a control by default. That means that from some predefined controls, I can take that. For example, I want to do the CIS bench. So what I will do from the CIS benchmarks or from anything else, I will be able to take the inputs and add the further things only. That also is possible. As of now, no, Sachin. As of now, the audit manager only supporting the AWS accounts only. It's not supporting Azure and EC, but hopefully they will be having it in the near future. As of now, they only support AWS. That's what I know actually. Yeah. Okay. Now let's do one thing, team. Let's understand what is the purpose of guard duty and Macy. Just telling you, you will automatically understand that. See, will you basically avoid your okay? Just my simple question is that will you avoid your sim tools, DLP tools, and firewalls, etc. because you're doing an auditing? Please don't worry. I'm performing an auditing every month, so because of that, I will not use the sim tools or DLP tools anymore. Is it like that? The same thing here also. When you basically go to AWS, what we do is that when you go to AWS cloud account, okay, let's take an example of a tool called as a guard duty. Okay, I cannot say guard duty is a complete sim tool, but it's more of a threat intelligence tool. Okay, we have something called as a threat intelligence tool. Okay, that means if you go to findings, this tool will give you this tools will basically take inputs from multiple sources, like they will take inputs from multiple sources like log files. Okay, like to give an example, VPC flow logs, network logs, then DNS logs, then CloudTrail logs. Like they will take inputs from multiple logging tool or logs and everything like this, and they will analyze this log files and give you, they will basically show you threats. It's like a sim tool, but not complete sim tool. This will basically analyze your log files and they will tell you that this is something suspicious. This is something which has done wrong. Let me give an example. See this. So what they're saying is that, so we have an instance here. Okay, in my AWS account, we have an instance here. Okay, and what happens, the team? This particular instance, if I open this, you can see that for this particular instance you're having, there is a brute force attack happening. So how they were able to understand there is a brute force attack happening there? From multiple log files, from the VPC flow logs, from the DNS logs and all, they were able to understand that for my instance, which is basically called with this particular ID, there was a brute force attack happening by some attackers. Okay, they were telling you this. This is not a tool for rectifying things. This will identify things for you. Okay. Okay. Now my question is that, see, even if you use a SIM tool or maybe even if you use a DLP tool, whatever tool you're using, there also can be false positives, right? There can be a lot of false positives as well, right? Like for example, now let me give an example. Uh, there are some 10 employees in my company. Okay, 10 employees in my company. All these 10 employees are basically trying to log in. Okay, all these 10 employees are basically trying to log into my instance in cloud platform, and they are typing, all these guys are typing the wrong password. Can we get this error, team, here? Can we get this error here in this case? See, these 10 employees simultaneously using one single IP address, they are trying to access the instance and try to enter the password multiple times, and they failed. Is it really attack? No, right? But guard duty will think it's an attack. So for that, you can basically, that just whitelist that. Once you whitelist this, then what happens? That is basically over. Like basically you can, all we have to do is that we have to basically trusted, now it's called as trusted IP list. You have to basically put the trusted IP list and they will not generate findings for that. Okay, that is the goal of a guard duty is specific. It's only threat intelligence. It's not about the auditing. It's about threat intelligence tool. This will basically work like a SIM tool, or maybe more of a threat intelligence tool. Okay, then what we have? Then we have something called as a malware scan. That means that now this tool can basically perform like your anti Windows Defender and all. This tool can basically perform malware scanning for your containers, your servers, your buckets and all. Like, it's a really good option they are having. Just giving a high level overview of guard duty. Okay, this is what guard duty is. AWS inspector, yeah. So then that is the next thing we'll discuss about AWS inspector. Okay, before that team we'll go to Macy. Okay, there is something called as a Macy. Okay, so what is Macy? When talking about the word called as AWS Macy, let me give an example, team. Now, again, this also is basically, it will look like a DLP tool, but again, this is basically a tool which is specific for sensitive data discovery and protection. Like, for example, if you want to have a data classification tool in the cloud platform, if you want to have a data classification and a data sensitivity and discovery protection tool in AWS, this is the tool we have to use. This tool will basically help you to this is using completely AI/ML. Okay, based on AI/ML, what they will do, they will basically help us to identify the sensitive data they are having in, or we are having in our AWS cloud platform. If you want, I can give an example. Let's suppose that, team, I'm having a bucket. Okay, I'm having a bucket here, and all I have to do is that, team, in the bucket I'm having, okay, in the bucket I'm having, if I create an assessment, what will happen is that, team, that assessment will basically show me if there is any kind of sensitive contents in my bucket. So basically, it is only for Amazon S3. So what they will do is that they will keep on scanning your bucket. Okay, this particular tool will keep on scanning your bucket, and what they will do is that they will tell you if there is any kind of a sensitive data. It can be credentials, it can be some passwords, it can be some Aadhaar number, SSN number, or something like that. Whatever it is, they will be able to clearly identify those contents which are accidentally uploaded to your Amazon S3, and made public also, and they will immediately notify you on that. Let me give an example, team. uh, it's only for Amazon S3. Yes, it's only for Amazon S3. Okay. Now, what is the definition for sensitive data? Yes, you can modify that, because now you're saying, Krish, this is not I want. I want to have my own sensitive data. It's possible. Let me show you. Let me show you. So I click on create an assessment. Okay, for this particular bucket, I click on next. All I have to do is the team. I can basically select all my AWS accounts here as part of my AWS organization. And all I can do is that I have to simply tell them there are some predefined information already here. Okay, so if you basically want to have something more, you can make customized one. You can basically make your customized data identifier step here. If you basically go to the, if you go to the next step, you will be, just an example, you will be able to create a customized identifiers here where you can basically define custom rules. Make sense? So Macy is a really good tool which will keep on scanning your bucket, and basically they will help you for this process. So if you want me to understand the difference, or if you want me to explain the difference between Macy and guard duty, Macy will only look into Amazon S3 buckets, and they will help you to intelligently classify data so that you have a proper controls for your data. And guard duty is basically a continuous threat detection tool which will talk about S3 and other things also. It's basically more of a wider thing. It's not specific to one bucket. Perfect. So that's basically what we call as a Macy. Just giving an overview. Okay, that's it. So these tools, I'm not teaching you this. Just I'm giving an overview on the tools which can help you for the system. That's it. Okay, just giving a high level things. The next thing is that, okay, we have something called as a CloudTrail. So CloudTrail is a logging tool. You know that I'm just giving a high level only. It's a logging tool. That means when you go to a tool called as a CloudTrail, okay, this tool is basically something which will log all the things you're doing in the cloud platform. That means in your AWS account, whatever activities you're performing, like creating something, deleting something, modifying something, whatever activities you're performing in your AWS account, they will log all the activities. For example, if I have logged into my AWS account, this CloudTrail will tell you that, okay, this person has logged in at this time from this IP address. Like, they will give you a lot of information. So these kind of tools like Guard Duty, Macy, Security Hub, or IAM, or Identity Center, these kind of tools can basically help you a lot for doing these kind of activities. Just giving a high level only. So what we have to do is that either we can perform these activities manually, or we can use tools like AWS Audit Manager or some third-party tools for doing it automatically. So what I'm going to do is that, team, I will show you some third-party tools also, some base open source tools I'll show you for performing this activity. Got it? Like whatever we have done for the AWS Audit Manager, I will show you some third-party tools which can help for this. Okay. The first tool which I want to show you, okay, the first tool which I want to show is that Prowler. There's a tool we have called as a Prowler. Okay, you have many tools in the market. If you want, you can basically have more than 30-40 tools are there in the market, but I'm going to show you a tool called as a Prowler. Okay, so when we started this particular tool, or when this is a complete open source tool. Okay, when we started this tool was almost like around, what we can say, almost like around uh like it's only a CLI tool. Okay, previously, but now they have a more better version of it called as a Prowler Pro. But this tool is actually chargeable. They will have a very good free trial. After free trial, you have to pay for Prowler Pro. But if you basically go for Prowler itself, that is a simple and open source tool available in the market. Okay, so if you want to use Prowler, it's quite simple. All we have to do is that, let me show you what Prowler will look like. So this is basically what we call as a Prowler Pro. Okay, this is a tool called as Prowler Pro. They have completely scanned my account. It's quite simple. All we have nothing to do here. If you basically want to use Prowler or Prowler Pro, you don't have to configure anything. All you have to do is that you have to connect to your AWS account. How do you connect to your AWS account? Quite simple. They will give you an automation script by default. Just click on that and they will run. That's it. Make sure, if you want to use Prowler Pro for scanning your AWS account, okay, all we have to do is that, first of all, you make sure that you log into your AWS account in the same browser. First thing, you log into your AWS account in the same browser. And the second thing is that you go and create account in Prowler. Okay, let me show you. Okay, and just click on, just click on start, if you have an account, you can log in, or you can basically start a free trial. Okay, both are basically fine. You can go for any of these things, no problem. But as of now, what I'm going to do is the team, I'm now just clicking on logging. Okay, once you click on login, you will be able to do that, or you can basically start a free trial also. So free trial is basically quite easy. Okay, there is no need of credit card or anything. All you have to just enter your account number, that's it. Okay, so I already have my account logged in, and if I click on my dashboard, you can see that in my dashboard, okay, you can see that they have basically scanned my one AWS account, and they were able to have nearly 1050 findings. Okay, they were able to get only 1050 findings. Okay, so like it's not so complicated. As I told you before, all we have to do is that just add your accounts and you will be able to get this very clear. Okay, so you will be able to see your dashboards, you will be able to see your see, if you want to see compliance, just click on compliance here, and you can see that your compliance status for various standards like CIS benchmarks, GDPR, PCDSS, SOC, ISO. You'll be able to see all these things. For example, if I click on PCDSS, I'll be able to view it. I can see what is missing. Before we create the Prowler, okay, before we do this, what we have to, first of all, we have to log into the AWS account. Okay, it's not required always, but they will also automatically perform that. But all we have to do is that we go to IAM. Okay, we go to IAM, and in the IAM you can see users. Okay, you have to create a user with the name called as Prowler. Its name is not a problem, but I prefer you give a proper name. Just create a user with the name Prowler in your AWS account, and just make sure you give these two things. These two things, only these two things. Okay, just make sure you create a user called as Prowler in your AWS account, and make sure you give these two permissions. And in the section where they're asking you, create a credential and basically attach the credential to the Prowler. All those options they will show. You don't have to worry about that. That they will show you in the screen itself, where you can just perform this. Okay, that's it. Is it clear? Yeah. For Azure, Prowler Pro is not available as of now. If you basically want to go for Azure, Prowler Pro is not available. For that, you can use Prowler. Prowler will work for that, but Prowler Pro won't work for that. Okay, that's it. For that, we can use Scout Suite, etc. But primarily for Prowler, it's basically for AWS. Okay. This is a quite simple and quite effective tool. And Prowler Pro is basically not chargeable for first 30 days. And if you want to take it further than 30 days, you have to, you have to get a subscription there. There is some basic cost for it. You can check the costing part in the website itself. Okay, that's it. Okay, regarding security part, the reason why I'm not able to guarantee the security is because this is a third party tool. That means what? You are allowing a third party to, obviously see your AWS account and all the contents. So it's a risk for sure. But at the end of the day, we have a convenience as well. That's why we basically go for this. And this is basically, and you will get all the options here. If you want to learn about this tool, if you want to basically work with this, we have all the options here. How to perform, how to click on each options, how to filter the timeline, how to see the status of all your AWS accounts aggregated together, how to add multiple AWS accounts, how to see the attack surface. Everything you will get from the Prowler documentation. And this tool is basically quite simple. You can basically try this out.
Thanks, Krish.
Okay, then we can use it. See, and the reason why I prefer Prowler is because Prowler is more friendly. At least for me, it's more friendly. See, it's open source tool which can help it for AWS, Azure, etc. And if you want to know the commands, how to perform the commands, I use this one. For example, let's say I have already installed Prowler here. So, Krish, how do I install Prowler? If you say you want to install Prowler, all we have to do is just follow the instructions here. Every steps for installing Prowler is basically here. Just do the instructions and you will be able to install Prowler. So how do I know if Prowler is installed? Prowler space minus V, I guess. Minus V, yeah. See, in my case, I have already installed. So obviously, it's there. And how do I basically perform the assessment? They will clearly tell you. Quite simple. Let me show you. See, all we have to do is that we have to basically put the provider name. So just simply type Prowler space AWS. Now, obviously, you may have doubt. So, Krish, by simply typing Prowler space AWS, how Prowler will be able to know which AWS account they will scan, or how they will know that which AWS account and how do they get permission to access it? That is why, do you remember that team? I created a user here called as Prowler in my AWS account. I already have a user called as Prowler here. See, this guy is there. Okay, so we have to create a user called as Prowler, and we have to make sure this user have this security audit and we only access permission, and you must make sure there is a proper access key for that. So I just type Prowler space AWS, and I don't prefer this. The only thing I'm preferring is that when you type Prowler, just type okay Prowler space this one. This is the command I always prefer to perform. Prowler space AWS or Azure or GCP, whatever it is, just type AWS space minus B, your bucket name. That means it must look like this. Okay, so what they will do is the team, they will perform an assessment. Okay, what they will do is that they will perform an assessment and they will give you a report. So in my case, I have already done the assessment for you because you asked me for this. I have already done the assessment and I'll show you the report. See, they have already done my assessment in my AWS account and this is my report. See, the reason is you're not able to see this because properly is because I forgot to save that, that supporting files. That's why. If you see that, you will be able to see all the checks. Means I have done complete check. That's a problem. There's a lot of things are there. But when you perform the checks, you can basically perform specifically for specific activities. I have done. You can see that I have done my assessment on 15th of November 2023 on this particular time, and for all regions I have performed. But what if you want to perform for only PCDSS compliance or HIPAA compliance? Quite simple. Okay, if you want to basically perform it for only certain particular compliance requirements, that also is possible here. I click on compliance and see, just type which compliance you want to do. You need to have AWS CLI. Yes, Shubhajit. See, you just type Prowler space your provider name, and you can tell them which compliance you want them to scan for. That means if you say that, let me show you the command. See, they will tell you that there is a 25 frameworks available. As of now, they have support for 25 frameworks. They will support it verify for FedRAMP, HIPAA, PCI DSS, CIS benchmarks, SOC 2 reports. CIS means audit manager, control tower, guardrails, and everything is enabled or not. GDPR compliance. So let's suppose that if I want to verify the compliance for some particular standard. So what I will do, Prowler space AWS space compliance and just put the compliance name. What is my compliance name? I'll go for CIS benchmarks. I'll copy this, I'll paste it here, I press enter. So if my command is correct, they will do that. See, now what they're doing is their team, they're specifically scanning for CIS benchmarks compliance in my AWS account like this. This tool is a really good tool. It takes hardly, very less time. It's not that much time it will take. It's a really good tool. We can go for it. Okay, that's it. Okay, the authentication part is quite simple, Naveen. What I have already done is that I have already configured AWS CLI on this. Okay, if you want any tool to work, you have to simply go for AWS CLI and configure the AWS. That's all, nothing more. They will take this from AWS CLI only. Okay, the next is team. We have something called as a Scout Suite. Okay, it is not as mature as Prowler, but it's also a good tool. We have something called a Scout Suite. But the benefit of Scout Suite is the team. Scout Suite is basically something which can support more vendors. That means Scout Suite can support vendors of AWS, Azure, GCP, Alibaba, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, Kubernetes, etc. Okay, like it's again, if you want to install Scout Suite, no complications there. All we have to do is that we must just create a, just every steps are mentioned here. See, in fact, there is a whole video for this here. See, okay, you just have to type the commands. Okay, just if you want to perform Scout Suite, just type Scout AWS, that's it. They will basically perform the scanning for you. In my AWS account, you can see that I have, or in my account, I have already done the scan because it will take approximately 2-3 hours minimum. So I have all done the scanning here. You can see this is the scan report I got from Scout Suite. So if I open the scan report of Scout Suite, let's see if it works. See this team, I will be able to see all the status of every service separately. The dashboard is basically more flexible here. For example, if I want to see the status of EC2, I can specifically see all the things specific to EC2. If I basically go for load balancer, if I go to Lambda, if I basically go to container services, if I go to storage, I will be able to get the summary of the security of all these tools which I'm having in my AWS account. Okay, I can basically filter it more effectively if I want. I can basically check the proper findings there, but this is not something which is basically giving you compliance reports, but they will give you a predefined checklist. That's it. Okay, this is basically what we call as a Scout Suite. Like the Prowler, we have a tool called as this is a tool called as a Scout Suite. Is that clear, team? All of you, Scout Suite is clear? See, this tool is an open source multi-cloud security auditing tool, which will enable us to force a cloud security posture assessment of cloud environments. So like this is a simple tool we can use for a cloud security posture management. But again, you can have more detailed tools like Aqua. Then we can have more detailed tools like, like uh, this, there's a lot of CASB tools, cloud security posture management tools are there in the market, but this is the open source tools available for that. If you don't want to pay extra money and you want to perform the checks, this is the tools you can basically go for that. Obviously, you're going for a third party tool, so obviously you have additional risk is there, but this is an example. Okay, that's it. Okay, let's see. Does they provide solutions? Okay, now let me give an example. Bucket logging. So in Amazon, they're telling me that bucket logging is disabled. What is bucket logging is disabled? Bucket logging disabled means that in my AWS S3 buckets, bucket logging is disabled. So what we have to do is that they will tell us that go to the bucket and make logging enabled there. That's it. They are simply telling us that go to the bucket and simply enable logging. And if you want to do this, you can basically get the reference from something like this. They will tell you. And as an assessor, we are not immediately, resolving things. We are first finding out what is wrong, and then if you're part of the company, you will basically be part of the resolving process, or you can basically give it to the company and they will do it. The specific experts will basically perform the activity and they will do the resolution part of it. They will tell us actually. So here they are saying that all the 4 buckets. Okay, if I want, I can basically filter it also. I can see which all buckets specifically there also. Yes, if I click on instances, you can see that, see, they are giving me clearly which instance. They're telling me that you have a server called as Ubuntu there, and this is the ARN of the particular thing with the ID. This is in Mumbai region, and this is basically the things we are having, and they will tell me what is wrong here clearly. Okay, that's it. You can download this particular report as a HTML file, CSV file, JSON file, whatever it is, and also these tools can send it to Security Hub as well. Okay, this tool can directly send this to Security Hub as well if you want. So team, any queries we have regarding the Prowler Scout Suite? Just as two examples I want to give you. See, I'm not specifically saying that we have to go to this tool. These are some example tools we are having, but you can go for many other tools in the market. Not one particular tool is there. You can find hundreds of tools. Cloud Custodian, then PMapper, then we have a SkyArk, we have a Lunar, Packbot, CS Suite. Lot of tools are there. Lot of tools are there in the market. Okay, so I'm just giving some examples of these tools. Just take the proper tool you need, and these tools can help you for a proper assessment. Does these tools carry out auditing and so if you basically go to the AWS, if you go to Prowler Pro can basically perform at organizational level, but Prowler and Scout Suite you can basically have do it specifically account wise. That's the best thing. See, penetration testing is also a kind of a security assessment, but when you say pen testing, okay, like for example, let's suppose that you're going for a training called as a AWS certified security specialty. So this is basically where you are learning about, okay, you are learning about the specific security mechanisms available natively in AWS for securing your account. It's more of a defensive approach you're learning when you go for something called as a AWS certified security specialty. But when you say that you're going for a pen testing, that's more of an offensive side where you're trying to break these controls and get enter the AWS account. That's basically where we perform something called as a penetration testing. And as you all know that team, when you basically go for a cloud platform like AWS, not only AWS, when you go for a cloud platform like it can be AWS or Azure or GCP or any cloud platform, we have a limitations. That means what? When you're saying that you want to perform the penetration testing on AWS, we have some limitations there. That means if you want to do pen testing, you can do pen testing on these services without having any issue. Okay, you can perform penetration testing on these particular services without any approval from the cloud service provider. But if you want to do penetration testing on any other services, if you want to perform penetration testing on any other services and any of these activities, you have to first of all contact AWS and get their approval. That's very important. See, customers seeking to test non-approved services will need to work directly with AWS support team. That means that if you want to perform any other things than these services or any other activities which is mentioned here, you have to make sure you contact AWS support, and based on their inputs only you are able to perform that. So Krish, for becoming if you want to become a proper cloud security assessor, okay, if you want to perform cloud security assessment, what certifications you have to pursue? See, the first thing is that certifications are definitely critical for us just to showcase our skills. Obviously, it's very important for us, but more than that, first thing is that you need to have a proper understanding of the cloud platform. Like you need to have a proper understanding of the platform like AWS or Azure or GCP. Like this, you must have a proper understanding of the platforms. It's not like you have to memorize and learn every platforms, but you must be having a decent understanding of the proper things. Like once you learn AWS, it's quite easy for you to learn Azure and vice versa. Okay, now let's suppose that I have done this on AWS. The same thing you can do it in Azure also, not that much complicated actually. It's quite very easy. Second thing is that we can basically go for something called as things like CCSK, CCAK, CCSP, etc. In fact, many people ask me the same. That's the reason why team now I have planned for a customized course as well. Like I hope you have heard that. So we have launched a new course specifically for that called as a cloud security, advanced cloud security governance. This will give you benefit of both CCSK and CCAK. We have a launch even next week and it will be launched at that time. This course will actually give you a complete understanding of cloud security governance and architecture. auditing and as well as governance both. It's more of a more approach in a GRC perspective on how to approach the cloud platform, the challenges, the benefits. Obviously, also it will help us to prepare for the exams like CCSK also and CCAK as well. Next week we'll have a launch event for this team. You can basically join that and you will be able to get the claims clear. So you don't have to get these certifications, right? What I'm trying to say is that if you have a knowledge of one particular cloud platform, and if you have a knowledge of things like the contents of CCSK or CCAK kind of stuff, that itself will basically satisfy your requirements when you for becoming a cloud security assessor, because that covers everything you need. Okay, rest is basically your mindset and the tools searching, like how much time you can take for learning this and basically going behind. That's it. But understand that cloud security assessment is not a one-day process, it's a periodic process. Okay, it's a regular systematic process we have to perform. It's not something which you do only once. It's something which we have to perform in a like maybe every 6 months or 3 months, whatever it is. And if you want to learn, yeah Jay, if you want to learn more about that, obviously you can go for AWS certified solution architect associate and AWS certified security specialty if you go for AWS side. Okay, that's it. Now and how do I yes, Nikhil, we do provide that actually. So if you basically see at the end of the day, when you basically go to a cloud platform, okay, the thing is that you must know what tools to use, and it's about practice. By reviewing the latest tools and technologies coming up, you can basically practice all these things quite easy, and you will be able to figure out which tools you use for what purpose. Okay, be clear with the native tools and see what is missing there, and for that you can go for third-party tools. Okay, now I showed you a glance of the CIS benchmarks. Okay, so it's quite easy now. Means let's suppose that I showed you these things, but how do you know that these are the best practices? How do you know how to configure this? Like for example, I'm saying that ensure there's a proper password policy, ensure there's a multi-factor authentication. How do you ensure this in your company? You need to have a AWS security expert who can basically configure that in the company. Like, let me give you an example. Now I want to make sure that nobody is using the root account. How do I make sure that that is happening properly? There must be a security expert who must configure that if somebody uses the root account for my login, that means must be getting notified about that. Like this, a security expert must know the security best practices, the how can we utilize each tool for what specific activities, how it can basically work like that. Always understand this goal which I'm trying to talk about, team. So make sure when you write a report on cloud security assessment, make sure you have a proper objective for it, scope for it, understand the methodology and all this stuff, and clearly define what you have in the assessment part. Clearly write down what you have figured out, and this is what we have to suggest to the management. And in the report, many people ask me one question that, so Krish, in this report, do we have to find or mention the remedies? Yes, you can mention high level. Okay, how does it look like? It will look like this. See, so one, this is basically like this, you just give a high level, not like this, but you can just give a high level things on what we can basically, what remediations we can perform on that. That's basically up to us, but yes, we can provide the remediations if we want. Okay, you can basically have a there are some auditors who or assessors, what they do is that after this particular assessment they are doing, what they will do, they will basically write something called as a remediation plans, and they will tell them, or they will mention how we can basically remediate these vulnerabilities also, that based on the kind of auditing happening or assessment happening, the experience of that person, like that, whether he is internal or external, like that. Okay, that's basically the remediation plans also. And you must always have a conclusion as well. Just make a small conclusion statement. That's how you make a report. It's quite easy. Okay, and if you need some support on that, you can always like ping me on, no problem. I'm happy to support you for that if there is anything coming up on that way.